Look at that. Hey. All right, well, when we talk about cooling, I have a few thoughts and comments. These are only mine, but this is a downflow radiator, which I don't think is optimum, but that's what style came with the 65 GTO, so that's what I have. But it has this is a Ron Davis racing radiator. I think it's a 2-core. It's kind of hard to see in there, but I think it's 2-core. It has a really nice shroud on it, so it's all sealed up. I think that's really important. And then it's got 2 cooling fans. I still run a thermostat because I travel when it's cold. And since I dry decked my heads, I actually modified my crossover so that I could take this this tap off of here, so it runs back to the heater core over there and then returns into the factory water pump. Some other things that I think are for drag and drive anyways, you know, I know this is a big ugly air to water intercooler in the front, but what it does allow you is no restriction in front of the rad. And my buddy Bill will tell you, my car runs very cool pretty much all the time because there is no air-to-air intercooler in front. And people ask if I run my air to water at all while I'm on the street. I never do. Doesn't need it. It really is a non-issue driving at low RPMs. So yeah, there's no fear there. You know, the other thing that I don't know how many people think about, but that line that runs back there and goes through the heater core, if the car is really hot, it will knock some temperature out of that thing, out of your car really quick. I mean, it doesn't knock temperature. It doesn't knock temperature out of the human beings inside the car, but you know, if you're in traffic and your car is really close to overheating, and you can knock, even maintain temperature with your fan inside the car, then I think that's a benefit. Another interesting discussion point, I think, is I know a lot of people run their fans all the time. So, you know, it's probably dependent on if you have an air-to-air in front of your rad, but my thoughts are, you know, if you're going 55 miles an hour down the highway, I don't know if the fans are going to buy you anything other than wearing out your fans. Now, I say that based on my own experience. I know lots of people will tell you that it does help cool, but I'm not sure how much more air it's pulling if you're going, you know, 50, 60 miles an hour down the road. So I think the other thing that's important, like, so for me that drives so far, if you're running those fans all the time, you better bring some extra fans. These fans have been on the car for, oh, I bet you at least 8 to 10 years. They're Spall, they're what Ron Davis mounts. And I've never replaced them. Haven't had any issue with them. So in my ECU, I turn both fans off, anything above 55 miles an hour, even if it's above the temperature that I would run them when I'm at, you know, if I'm at 100, if I have a 160 degree thermostat in there, I'll run them at 170. But cruising down the road, if it's above 170, I don't run them, and it tends to cool just fine. I also in the ECU shut them off above 50% throttle because I don't want them making the alternator send some extra power and use some extra power. So anything above 50% throttle, I just shut the cooling fans off, because chances are if I'm 50% throttle, I'm going 100 miles an hour and pretty quick. So yeah, I thought I would add that tidbit in there too. The last thing I want to talk about is redundancy when it comes to monitoring. So I have like 3 different gauge sets. I have my factory gauge set. So if everything ECU wise fails, I still have sensors. Well, some of them are common between the gauges and the ECU. Some of them aren't. But it is nice to have some redundancy. So, you know, you have to, if you're cruising on a long trip and your tablet is too bright, you can for me anyways, I can shut it off and I could just run off my factory gauges. Plus I have another little gauge that gives me everything I want. It gives me all my EGTs. So I'll run through that maybe on another one, but I think that especially when it comes to cooling, you want to make sure you're able to monitor it. So you know, if all you have is an ECU, maybe you need a redundant coolant, like some manual gauges. I think that's really important on long drives and Dragon drives. All right, thanks. So also wanted to clear up that dry decking. So I'm using a factory water pump. While I'm on factory water pump, in between the pump and the timing cover housing, there's the pump obviously, and then there's a plate in there. One of the big issues with Pontiacs and maybe other ones as well, I'm not sure, but when they push the impeller onto the pump, they push it too far and it's away from the plate. So you can actually take the plate and modify it. It's a bunch of information online about how the Pontiac guys are all tightening up that tolerance so that it pumps well, but it's another interesting tidbit. But anyways, the way mine works is it takes water from the bottom of the rad, goes through the water pump, through the block. Because it's dry deck, that means there's no passages between the block and the head that it can flow through. Nothing's filled though. It's the block is still wide open, so the coolant goes through the block, out the back. There's ports on the back of the head, or back of the block, and the back of the heads. Eventually on the heads, it's the exact same as this crossover right here. So it goes through the block, out the block, into the back of the heads, and then comes through here, through the thermostat, and also can go through the rad. So that's all dry deck means is there's just nothing flowing from the block surface through the head. So if you blow a head gasket, or if you it won't push water out anymore, you'll just lose compression. Could still torch your head, all that fun stuff, but you don't have to worry about pushing coolant out, turning your rad into a balloon, all that fun stuff. All right, you saw the air to water under the hood. So this is stolen from Rick Stinky, and this is where I saw it first, but essentially it's a Rubbermaid container with a bilge pump in it. And so my procedure is I'll fill that thing right full of ice, and when I'll do the burnout, and then as I'm going up the stage, I turn on the water pump and it starts cooling things down, and it works fantastic. It'll melt that whole thing. If that thing's full of ice in a quarter mile pass, there'll be nothing but water. It'll still typically be cold, but it works fantastic. It doesn't sweat. I've got quick disconnects if I really want to move it out of the way. It was a great idea. So yeah, Rick Stinky, honk if parts fall off. That's what he used, and I stole the idea. Worked great, and you could keep your road pops cold as well. All right, I thought I'd just look at a quick graph. I think this is my 851 pass. I just wanted to show you my air inlet temperature with the air to water. So as I described, I turn it on after I do the burnout. As I'm going up the stage, the red line is the temperature, and so you can see it starts to drop. At the beginning of the pass here, it's at 93 degrees, and then it looks like it bottoms out somewhere around the top of second gear in here at like 77 degrees, and then starts to climb, and by the time I'm going through the traps, it's 95 degrees, and that's 17 pounds of boost. Now I'm sure if you had your turbo combination maxed out and you were generating more heat, that would be hotter, but that's where mine is, with that big single 94 and around 17 pounds of boost, I think, is the average. The yellow line is boost. You can see it varies a little bit, and close to the end of the pass, I'm actually on the rev limiter, so that's why it's kind of bouncing around a bit. But anyways, if you like what you see, please subscribe, and feel free to leave me any comments of what you would like to see and what you would like me to cover. Thanks. Bye.